12:45. Welcome this morning. My name is Kelly Sutherland. It would be great if you all would come on in and take your seats. Find your program. We're going to get everything started here. First thing is a housekeeping thing. Everyone take their cell phone out of their pocket. Turn the volume down. Perfect. This always happens to me in church, right? So, you guys want to come up? I want to welcome everyone this morning. This is the Olympic Conference. This is our first inaugural, this is the maiden voyage. So we really appreciate your attendance, and we hope you find the day interesting and informative. The speakers will be here for you all to visit with. Come on up, Jake. Come on up, Kirby. All right. Please stand. We're going to bring in the flag. Tony Stevens II is going to bring the flag in. We are honored today to have 3 generations of Stevens with us. Tony, the dad, is in the back of the room. Tony II is walking in, and his little boy's coming in with him. Welcome to the podium, Jake Robinson. He's going to offer us the pledge and the invocation today.
We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bow in prayer, please. Lord, we thank you for our country and its people, our blessings and our privileges. By your Holy Spirit, lead us both in humility and competence. Move with your renewing spirit in the hearts and minds of our nation's leaders. May they not only have the will to seek the common good, but also the wisdom to recognize what is truly the common good. May your spirit of truth discipline the minds of those who edit and control our media. Give them the courage to spurn the sensational gossip and violence that tears the fabric of our society, but to publish the truth that cleanses and builds. Come with your compassionate spirit on all those who help to mend the wounds and ills of our society. Reach out to those who tend the disease and injures all the brave souls who try to right wrongs by changing unjust attitudes and laws. Pour out the Spirit of Christ upon our nation leaders and encourage and renew your ministers and pastors. Raise them up, men of small egos and mighty faith. Let this new era be a time of opportunity that is faithfully seized in the name of your Son. Loving God, through Jesus Christ who strengthens us, we commit ourselves to making this new century a place where grace and mercy and peace are not in short supply. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. I welcome to the podium Kirby Wilbur. Take your seats.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you all for coming out this morning. I want to thank the Kids Have Patriot Tea Party for allowing me to be your moderator and MC this morning, various panels. When Nick and Johnny first approached me about this conference, I said, of course I'll help. I have known of the Kids Have Patriot Tea Party for some time. I've spoken at some of your events. And you folks really are one of the few Tea Party organizations that has lasted through the rough 10 years since Tea Party was founded in response to President Obama's stimulus package and the actions he took after he got elected in 2008 to deal with the financial problems this country had. And the Tea Party grew for two reasons, really. One, people were angry, they were upset, they were disturbed about the path their country was going on. And they saw a Republican Party which they did not feel was adequately responding, and I think they were right in that. And so a citizens movement rose from the grassroots of people concerned about their country, full of patriotism, and not sure what to do, so let's organize and get something done. Kelly Koire will be with us later this morning as a speaker, organized actually the very first Tea Party rally in Seattle, Washington. And she was on my show and John's show. We helped her organize that, urged you to go down at Westlake. It was the first real Tea Party event after Rick Santelli asked for this to happen on CNBC when he had his famous rant about having a Tea Party, and the name stuck. So I want to congratulate all of you for coming out this morning, and those of you who continue to be involved, because of the so many Tea Party groups around the country that have faded over time, Kids Have Patriots haven't. You'd be congratulated for that. What happens with most political movements, you have some people at the national level, I think, get a little bit too big for their britches and get more involved in fundraising and publicity than actually doing the grassroots work. But you guys haven't done that. And so you need to be congratulated in doing that. And I'm very proud of you and very happy to be with you. It is citizen involvement that will save this country. It is citizen involvement that will steer this country in the right direction. Only 2% of the American people ever get involved in politics. I want that to sink in for you. 2%. That includes writing a check to a campaign, putting up a yard sign, running for office, working on a campaign, working on an issue, helping Tim Eyman pass out his initiatives, whatever it might be. 2% of the American people. Now, liberty, which I believe this country is all about, requires an informed and involved citizenry. And 1%, you got to think half those people are on the other side, okay? Half those involved are on the other side. 1% of the people can do that if we're involved and we're informed and we talk to each other. And two purposes of this conference today is to inform you on some of the important issues like property rights and gun rights and how to communicate technique and tactic, but also so you all start talking to one another. People in this room have different interests. Some of you are concerned about property rights, some of you are concerned about gun rights, some of you are just concerned about the direction of your country, some of you are concerned about what they're teaching your kids in school. That all comes together, my friends. We're all on the same bus. Now, some of us may get off earlier than others, but we have to remember we're all on the same bus. And we don't need to fight each other. We need to talk with each other and work together on the issues that bring us together. Understanding we face the same enemy. Abraham Lincoln once talked about the conflict in the world. It was true when he was there, and he said it was true from the beginning of time. You have two types of people involved in politics. You have the type of people that want to tell you how to run your life. They think they know better than you the size of the toilet, the type of light bulb, what you should be able to do with your property, how to live your life, what to spend your money on. They think they can better spend your money than you can because you're ignorant or dumb or uneducated, you don't have letters after your name, haven't gone to the fine college, you're stupid. Then there are people that believe that you're smart enough to choose things in your own life and run your own life. We're on the side of the people because we think you're smart enough to run your own life. Now, a lot of you are going to make mistakes. There's no question. That's part of being human. But I'd rather have you make mistakes and learn from them than be told by a central authority what to do. And that is what the fight we're in is about. Do you run your own life, or something else? If you read the Declaration of Independence, it's very simple where we stand. Okay, we hold these truths to be self-evident. They're true. It's not ideas, suppositions, opinions, and theories. They're truths that we are created, and that our Creator endows us with certain inalienable rights. That among these, important word, among, not all of them, but among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the pursuit of happiness is not the pursuit of late night comedy shows or who makes you laugh, or if you're feeling content. Happiness means leading the good life. Leading your life. Living your life. That's what the founders meant by happiness. It's important to understand that. And that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights. That's the job of government, to secure these rights. And when government violates that, we the people have a right to alter or abolish that form of government and find one more friendly to our liberties. Ever have doubts about what we believe in? Just read the Declaration. They got it right. And as conservatives and Americans and people right of center and libertarians, that should be the foundation of our belief system, the Declaration of Independence. No wiser document involving government has ever been written by man. And it inflames us and inspires us, and we follow that. Calvin Coolidge once said, in a speech in 1926, the 150th anniversary of the Declaration, he once said something along the lines of, if these are truths, what more is there to be said? What do you add to? What do you subtract? How do you progress from the truth? If we truly believe these things are true, and they are, then we don't need to worry about progress beyond them or changing them, altering them, because they're true. You can't progress from the truth. You can't alter the truth. The truth is the truth. And he was so right. So today, I hope we learn each other, we learn on the issues, and we come together more united in spirit that we can work together despite differences. Put them aside for the moment, because what's at risk is this country. This country. The beacon of liberty to the world, the inspiration of the world, the city on a hill that Ronald Reagan talked about, and even the Pilgrims and the Puritans talked about city on a hill. John Winthrop in 1630 talked about this country being a city upon a hill for all to see. That's how we can live lives with freedom and liberty. We must preserve that and pass it down to our children, because if you don't, who will? Remember, 2%, you're part of the 2%. The left talks about the 1% all the time. We're going to talk about the 2%. Half of them are them. Let's remember that, okay? So 2% that counts. Okay. Our first speaker this morning, lead off, is going to talk to you about property rights. Property has no rights. It's the human individual right to property that is at stake. Okay, often left will talk about property rights like this building has rights. No. But the owner of the land that built the building has rights. And you and your homes have rights. You as property owners have rights. And they're in risk. And the left is very clever in how they go at this. They use terms like sustainability. Don't we all want to sustain what we have? I mean, is that, and we'll talk about semantics, by the way, later, because this really is a war about semantics. And the left is much better at it than we are. And Rosa Koire is going to talk about that when it comes to property rights, who's behind the strife and what they really want. She's the executive director of the Post Sustainability Institute. She's authored the book Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21. She's a real estate appraiser. She and I have that in common. I was a real estate appraiser for 20 years until some radio station called and said, "Do you want a job?" And I got tired of measuring houses and dealing with real estate agents. I said, "Sure." But she has an extensive background, and she discovered this agenda while she was working for the California Department of Transportation as a real estate appraiser, working on a project. And she started seeing things she didn't like, and she went and investigated. Now she researches and she writes, and she talks about Agenda 21 and the issue of sustainability. Please join me in welcoming Rosa.
All right. Oh, it works. Amazing. Well, thank you for being here. And you know, you might feel that you're a bit of a small group, but you're a very important group. This is a core group. This is a core coalition group. And that's what's really important. So thanks for inviting a Democrat to your first annual Olympic Conference. I do want to tell you that I am a Democrat, as Kanye West said, a Democrat is off the plantation. I did vote for Donald Trump, and you have to ask yourself why so many people would vote for a billionaire New York property developer who had never been elected to public office. And the answer is because we're desperate. That's the reason. Because we see, those of us who can see, regardless of what little letter you have after your name, those of us who can see that we are in desperate straits and we need someone who understands how to preserve our country and our freedom. And freedom's not just a word, as we know. It's not just something, it's not conceptual, it is real, it is factual. Just go to many other countries on this planet and you're going to see that where you are is a great country and we definitely can make it better. And that's why we're here. So, as Kirby said, in our Constitution we're guaranteed the rights we were born with. And foremost are the rights to free speech, assembly, property ownership, the right to change our leadership, and to bear arms if we must. We live in a constitutional republic. What we're seeing today in the renegade press and the intelligence agencies with the attack on the presidency is a vision of the future of totalitarianism in our country. That's what it looks like. This is why we are here, because the only check on this power is the people. The vocal and visible exercise of our rights is our shield and sword in freedom. And you don't have to be a Republican to know that, but it helps, I guess. So Kirby was talking about truth, and I want to tell you, obviously it's a lot tougher. It seems like it's tougher and tougher to speak the truth to people and have them hear it and understand what it is that you're talking about. And I'm going to give you a hint about why that is. I don't know if you knew this, I did not know it, that every year the Oxford English Dictionary chooses a word of the year. And it's not necessarily a word that you've actually used or that you have ever even heard. It's sort of a word that exemplifies the tenor of the year. And the word that they chose for 2016, I would say that in fact you could use that as the word for, maybe the last 2 decades. And that is post-truth. Post-truth. Okay, so how do they define that? They say it's relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. Post-truth. That's where we're at now. That's why you could stand up here and you could say it's objective reality. It is true. And yet you are not heard. Because people will say, well, that's just your opinion. That's just the way you see things. Because everyone is entitled to their own opinion and view of the truth. And oftentimes people have no information. But they always have an opinion. And this is what we have to work with. So as freedom and property rights advocates, you're going to find yourselves completely at odds with and deeply concerned by the agenda for the 21st century. And that's what it's called by the United Nations and the world, the agenda for the 21st century. That is 1999 to 2099. That is a 100-year agenda. It's the blueprint. It's the action plan, the comprehensive action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all law enforcement, all education, all information, and all human beings in the world. It is an inventory and control plan. And technology makes this possible in a way that it has never been possible before. So of course you're going to be concerned about this. It's, you know, not just as property rights advocates and not just as Americans, but as free human beings. Because this is a serious, serious problem. It is actually the framework that is making it possible to take your freedom away. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you how this plan, which is called, you know, if you go to Wikipedia, which I've tried to change many times, they finally, I think they were going to come out to my house with a machine gun or something like that. I don't know. You know, you'll see if you go on Wikipedia or anywhere else online, you're going to see them say, oh yeah, Agenda 21, it's a non-binding voluntary agreement. I'm going to show you today, in a short time, how that isn't true. Okay? So it's the Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. It's the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. But it really is far more than that, because the agenda for the 21st century justifies and enables the loss of private property rights, the USA Patriot and Freedom Acts, which allow for domestic surveillance, loss of industry, agriculture, and our food independence, the destruction of our educational system with the insertion of sustainability principles and ideology from pre-kindergarten all the way to postgraduate school and beyond. That's lifelong learning. We're seeing the overprescription of behavior-altering drugs, social engineering through land use planning, overregulation. Are we suffering from overregulation by government agencies? Ultimately, this is the loss of personal and national sovereignty. This is the direction that this is going in, and this is how it's going. Representative government is being replaced by regional governance. Unelected boards and commissions where you have no voice and no vote. It's ultimately the elimination of the nation state worldwide. This is the goal. It's a global transfer to megacorporations. And I'm really, believe it or not, I'm not an alarmist kind of a person. What I'm doing is I'm telling you what is really going on. It's not an easy thing to hear, but this is real, and I am going to show you today. So this is the erection of a corporatocracy. It's a global totalitarian state, and it is happening now. This 20-year-old plan is in the end stages now. It's an administrative coup d'etat. And because it doesn't come with flashing lights and it doesn't come with labels, you're never going to see it called Agenda 21. You will see sustainable development, and of course, like Kirby said, you think you know what sustainable development is. Gee, isn't it, conservation, recycling and reuse? No, that is the green mask. That's why I called my book Behind the Green Mask. Because this is the story that you're told. It's a stealth plan, and it hides in plain sight. And yeah, it sounds like Area 51 or Catch 22. They did it on purpose, obviously. Agenda 21, you sound like a nut right away. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it is a conspiracy fact. The plan, obviously, is crazy. I'm not, and you're not. Agenda 21 is dependent on the Hegelian dialectic, which is a crisis is posed and a solution is offered. A crisis is created, really. A solution is posed, and the balance between these two is the new normal. And you would never have agreed to that new normal if it hadn't been for that crisis. There's a crisis pressuring the acceptance of the new normal. In the case of Agenda 21, we've got two major crises. Crisis number one, global warming, climate change. Ooh, it's serious. The planet's in danger. The sea levels are rising. Life forms are threatened. There's no time to lose. Panic. Chaos, collapse, don't think. You can't think. Post-truth, you can't think. You must act. Al Gore wrote a book in 1992. It's called Earth in the Balance. Think about this word balance. You're going to hear it a lot. It's a jargon term. It is one of the terms. Balance. He said in Earth in the Balance, he said, a wrenching transformation of society will be necessary to save the planet. A wrenching transformation of society. A global crisis, think about this, a global crisis justifies global governance. So, all intelligent people agree that this is our fault. Our wasteful, greedy, selfish ways have almost destroyed the planet. So, what are we going to do? Well, here comes the United Nations to the rescue. They're going to save the planet. We've got the United Nations Commission on Environment and Development. It's the Brundtland Commission. They put out a book in 1987. It's called Our Common Future. And that's where sustainable development was first formally defined. And sustainable development, in their words, it's development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Well, that sounds good to me. I mean, you don't want to compromise the ability of your grandchildren to be able to meet their needs, right? Who wants to do that? But, okay, all that remained then was to say that yes, everything you're doing now does compromise the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So, the United Nations General Assembly said, can you come back in 5 years with the action plan to implement sustainable development worldwide? And the Brundtland Commission said, sure. And they did. They came back in 5 years with this. It's the action plan, Agenda 21. It's not a fantasy. I am not a conspiracy theorist. This is the real deal. It's a 300-page, 40-chapter book. It covers every aspect of your life, but nicely. Because it's a green mask itself. And it's based on 3 E's. This is what they call it. They always have, you know, I don't know if you're a student of Chinese, the Chinese political history and also the Russian political history, but they always have numbers. You know, it's the 5 goods, the 7 bads, the 8 whatever. Well, you're going to see that with Agenda 21 too, and you will see it with your regional plans. And I'm going to show you how this is implemented locally, but this is kind of, they're often not just trigger words and not just jargon terms, but there are also styles and there are also attitudes that you will recognize that are big, flashing lights for you when you know what you're looking at. So there are the 3 pillars, they're very serious about this. The 3 pillars of Agenda 21 are also the 3 E's. They're economy, ecology, and social equity. So you're going to see this image. I hope you can see it. It's I'm very low tech. It's a Venn diagram. It's 3 interlocking circles, right? It's economy, ecology, and equity, social equity. And where they meet in the center, that's sustainability. It's in balance, right? So I think we know what economy is. We're pretty sure we know what the environment or ecology is, but what's social equity? Social justice. You certainly see that a lot. Social equity. It requires a distribution of resources from those who have unjustly gained them to those who justly deserve them. Okay? Now I'm looking at a predominantly white group of people who probably own property. You have unjustly gained that. Agenda, and you can go, there are university courses where I didn't happen to bring this with me, but I'd be happy to direct you to courses that'll show you what the target groups are, what the unjustly deserving people are, and they are primarily they'll show you actual format for these plans. And they will show you it's white, middle class, males mostly, who own property. Okay, I'm not, this is real. So Agenda 21, a key provision of it throughout that entire book is data collection and information sharing worldwide. So it's about collecting the information and sharing it. There is a social and political philosophy that goes with this plan, and it's communitarianism. And communitarianism, think about balance. Communitarianism says that the individual's rights have to be balanced with the rights of the community. Well, hey, I don't know about you, but I'm in America, and I have individual rights guaranteed to me in my Constitution. Okay? The community's rights? What? What are the community's rights? They're not delineated anywhere. They are vague. They can change at any time. So here's the individual. Your rights are like a feather. The rights of the community are like a brick. They will always outweigh the individual's rights. You are a single voice, the voice of the many. This is a democracy. The voice of the mob will always outweigh you. Individuals can be identified as people who will speak for large groups of people. And if you do not block that, you are assumed to agree. So, remember the wrenching transformation of Al Gore. Al Gore's wrenching transformation of society. This requires the new man. This is the remaking of humanity. Is that possible? Haven't the Chinese tried it? Haven't the Russians tried it? Haven't the churches tried it? Hasn't everyone tried to remake human beings? You have to work at this as an individual, presumably looking to become a better human being. But this is a totally different way. This is an enforcement, a wrenching transformation of society. So in United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, it was agreed to by 179 world leaders in 1992, including the Holy See and George H.W. Bush for the United States at the UN Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. They agreed to set up local Agenda 21 worldwide. It's a global plan. It's implemented locally. Okay? So its goal is to implement sustainable development in all public and private policies and activities in the world. So George H.W. Bush agreed to it for the United States, and it's soft law. It's not a treaty. It didn't go through Congress. And what you've got here, I'm going to show you, I told you they say it's non-binding. I'm going to show you how it is binding on you. So in 1992, in June, George H.W. Bush agreed to it in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. In November of 92, Clinton was elected. In January of 93, he took office. And in June of 1993, President Clinton created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. Okay, what is that? That council was created with the sole purpose to implement Sustainable Development Agenda 21 in the United States. 10 cabinet-level secretaries, okay, defense, education, transportation, agriculture, HUD, EPA, interior, commerce, energy. 10 cabinet-level secretaries, captains of industry like Dow Chemical, BP, Enron. Ken Lay was on this. Ciba Geigy, the huge pharmaceutical giant, makes Ritalin. They make hypertension drugs. Whoa, you're nervous. And vaccines. The nonprofit environmental groups rounded out this big, huge public-private partnership with the Sierra Club, Natural Resources Defense Council, and the World Wildlife Fund. So they figured their widest impact would be, the way to get this into the U.S. They're going to use major land restrictions and social and cultural manipulation. So they commissioned a book. They said, how are we going to get this? And this is the land use plan, essentially, because we want to change the way people live. Where you live has a lot to do with how you live. And they want to change that, move you out of rural and suburban areas into concentrated city centers. So how are they going to do that? So they commissioned the American Planning Association, which is a partner with this plan, to come up with a book. Well, they wanted a legislative, this is a 12-pound book, so I just brought the cover. What is this thing? It's a legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Model statutes. So when you go to your city, your city or your county to get your plan, your property development thing approved or whatever, or they've got a new ordinance or a new statute, they didn't just write that thing. That comes out of a huge book, legislative guidebook with model statutes and ordinances. And these things are tested out. They're tried out all around the United States. Let's see if they'll go for this one. Okay? So by 2002, it was in every planning department and every university and college in the United States. Smart growth. This is called growing smart. Smart growth. Smart growth is not just a physical design style, it's an ideology. It's about getting you out, of those areas where you own property, where you are free, where you can grow your food, where your kids can play in the yard, where you can hang out, and bringing you into a high density development in the center of your town where you where you don't own it probably, or where you're under a homeowners association, where you have little or no access to a private space that is outside, where if you want to play a saxophone or have a fight or just have some privacy, smoke in your apartment, you're not going to be able to do that, okay? So the story is, the green mask is that you're going to have lower energy usage, smaller units, and you'll be on a high-speed transit, which doesn't exist. You're going to be on a transit lane and line, and hey, you're not going to want to go anywhere else, are you? Straight line, that's it. Don't want to go anywhere. You better walk. Oh no, you're going to take your bike. The bike groups are advocacy groups for this plan. So, okay, so the President's Council on Sustainable Development, those government officials, they figured, we can implement this plan about 2/3 of it. We could do it administratively. We don't need to ask anybody's permission for this. But it might be unpopular. So they commissioned another book. It's called Sustainable America, A New Consensus. A New Consensus. Now, I know you know what consensus is. If you look at your dictionary, you look it up in the dictionary, consensus, it's agreement of all parties, right? Hey, it would take us a long time in this room, and a lot of us think alike, but it would take us quite a while to come up with a consensus, agreement of all parties. But no, this is a new consensus. Sustainable America, a new consensus. What is that? It's neutralization of the opposition. Neutralizing your enemies. Not allowing for dissent. Remember, Agenda 21, it's global, top-down, but it gives the illusion of being local. It purports to being sourced in the people. So they need stakeholder support. They need community buy-in. So they create it. They use nonprofits. They use civil society, unelected boards. Your government creates neighborhood groups, identifies people who are going to play ball, and puts them in charge of that. In Seattle, they actually have the Department of Neighborhoods where they hire facilitators to run the neighborhood association. You are a hell of a troublemaker. You think we're going to let you talk anymore? Sit down. Okay? That's what you get. These nonprofit groups, you're going to see a lot of nonprofit groups. They are basically, de facto, the bottom level of bureaucracy. So, public opinion meetings, okay? You get invited down. Come on down. We want to we want your opinion on this cool new plan for the center of town. We want to know what you think. This is your plan. We want to know how you feel. Come on down. Give your opinion. You go right. You are a good citizen. You go to give your opinion on this awful plan. On this plan that they say the way you live now is business as usual. Don't you want planned future? That's what they call it, planned future. You say, no, I'm sorry, I don't like that. At this visioning meeting, where you get your crayons and your gold stars, you get to color on the map of the town and show how you want. Hey, are the property owners there? They didn't invite them. No. But here you go. If you dissent, you want to speak up, I'll show you. I do show you how to anti-Delphi a meeting, because the government is using the Delphi technique. It's a RAND Corporation mind control technique designed to bring you to a predetermined outcome while giving you the impression that it was all your idea. You are so smart. You came up with that plan all on your own. And it's the same plan all across the world. Isn't that incredible? How amazing that you came up with it. Is all planning bad? No, you planned to come here today, didn't you? Planning is good. We all plan. How about regional planning? Heck yeah, you don't want the road to end at the end of your county. Whoop, well, we just can't get it. That one ends there and this one ends here, and we're just going to have to get up and walk. No. Some planning is necessary, and regional planning is necessary. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. What we are talking about is a total redesign of the way you live, of your voice and your vote and your ability to live as a free person. So you're going to see terms like capacity building, strengthening community, consensus building, vibrant, walkable, bikeable, transformation. That means destroy the existing system. That's what transform is. Okay? Livable, green, sustainable, change. The idea is to block dissent before it forms. Remember communitarianism? You get peer pressure, shame. Okay, you've got to be tough. I know you're tough because you're here. You've got to be tough. Because if you're not surrounded by people who think the way that you do, you're going to be out there and you're going to get hammered on. This is manufactured consensus and behavioral modification. It's public re-education. You might say the fourth E, besides equity, economy, and ecology, is education. You're being trained to be a world citizen, a global citizen. I just stayed in a hotel in Houston last week. And you've seen these things, they put them on your sheets, on your bed, so you don't have to have them clean your room, okay? Save the world, it says. Down here it says, you are a good world citizen. Oh no, I am not. I am an American citizen with a vote. Yes. That's right, I'm an American citizen with a vote, because Agenda 21 is global, regional, neighborhood. What do they all have in common? No vote, no voice. We are city, county, state, and fed. What is the difference? We have a vote. We have a voice. Remember, it's a global plan. It's implemented locally. So, by 2002, Growing Smart was in every single planning department, every university in the nation. Your elected officials come and go, but those planners stay. They're lifers. They stay there. They make the plans happen. Well, I'll tell you that the American Planning Association actually says that they are the guardians of the future. So every general plan, every comprehensive plan in the United States was changed then. Now, this is how it is binding, okay? Yes, it's a voluntary, non-binding plan, blah, blah, blah. But it became binding on you when your federal government introduced it into the United States, down into the states, and locally. They required every general and comprehensive plan in the United States to require sustainable development, smart growth, transit-oriented development. In 1990, the Washington Growth Management Act was passed. Its goal was comprehensive land use plans. And of course, these are almost in every single town, county, state in the United States. Okay? Your critical areas ordinances, your huge buffer zones, regulatory takings without payment of just compensation. This is Agenda 21. I'll show you. Here's the county just south of me, Marin County, California. This is the cover of their, you can't see it, it doesn't matter. It's the cover of their comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan basically is the design for the way that they want their county to grow. It's a plan that they renew every 5 years. It's a 20-year plan. Okay, take a look inside. Can you see that? This, now they'll tell you you're crazy. You made it up. Guess what? You didn't. Okay, so, all right. Here's another one. Here's a guy, chief planner for the city of Seattle, J. Gary Lawrence. You familiar with this name? J. Gary Lawrence. He, not only was he on the President's Council on Sustainable Development, he was an advisor to the President's Council on Sustainable Development, but he also worked for the United Nations. He gave some lectures for the UN, which they published in their, their Millennium Papers. I'll tell you what he said. You got to hear this. Non-binding. This is a quote from him. Participating in a UN-advocated planning process would very likely bring out many of the conspiracy-fixated groups and individuals in our society, such as the National Rifle Association, citizen militias, and some members of Congress. This segment of our society who fear one world government and a UN invasion of the United States through which our individual freedom would be stripped away would just think about that. Those few individuals who might be concerned, okay? They would actively work to defeat any elected official who joined the conspiracy by undertaking Local Agenda 21. So we call our processes something else, such as comprehensive planning, growth management, or smart growth. Non-binding? I don't think so. So, global biodiversity, yeah, that's the green mask, global biodiversity. We're saving the planet. We're creating islands of human habitation. This is their term, islands of human habitation, formerly known as places where you live. It's a war on the rural people, on rural areas, on suburban areas, the creation of corridors, core areas, buffer zones that are the Wildlands Project. Collecting human beings into concentrated urban areas, that's the plan, okay? Federal funding pays for the sustainable community strategies through transportation dollars distributed to your councils of government, your regional boards. You got 14 of those in Washington State alone. Kitsap County, and I know we're in Pierce, but Kitsap County is in the Puget Sound Regional Council with Pierce County. 4 counties, Pierce, King, Snohomish, Kitsap. 72 cities, 4 port authorities, and the tribes. That's a huge regional council. How much of a vote or a voice do you have on that council? Did you even know it existed? Do you know where they meet? Anything? Okay. These regional planning councils create regional plans. Okay? Like the Puget Sound Regional Council, they have Vision 2040. Okay, now these, like I said, is all planning bad? No. Sometimes, certain elements of your planning, fine. What you're looking at, though, is a redesign of the way you live. These plans, they all are the same plan. They're all the same plan, all across the world. Okay? You've got Vision 2040. Sounds like Vision 2030, Hanoi, Vietnam. It sounds like Horizon 2025, Calgary, Canada. It sounds like Plan Bay Area, 9 counties, 101 cities, which is where I live. And we are suing to stop that plan because it is the worst plan in the United States. It is a template plan that will make it so that only 4% of the land area in the entire San Francisco Bay Area can be built on. Okay? So, Sustainable Thurston, Envision Skagit 2060, that was blocked by active Tea Party members. You have power. You have power. You've got to use it. You need to use it. You don't vote for a regional council. So, all right, let's move on here. I want to tell you about a group called ICLEI, and you may have heard of it, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives, ICLEI. Okay? They call themselves now, the Tea Party became extremely active, 2011 to 2014, all across the United States and around the world. People became aware of this group. This group was created in 1990. It was created to implement Local Agenda 21 worldwide. It's a non-governmental organization that has elected officials sitting on its boards and meeting, basically secretly, because they do not have transparency. It's a non-governmental organization. It's a non-profit, right? So you don't know where they meet, you have no access, and you didn't even know that your city was a member, your city or your county was a member, but oftentimes it was. It's designed, ICLEI, they call themselves local governments for sustainability now, so you won't know that they're international. They actually designed visioning meetings, that they did trainings, Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide. This is in your planning department. They trained planners on how to run those visioning meetings, okay? It's designed, listen to what it is. It's designed to circumvent Congress in international agreements. It goes around representative government directly to mayors of cities. You have no vote, there is no debate, there's no information. It's empowerment of the metropolitan megacities. Okay, now just think about this for a minute. In our Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, what is it? No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, right? Your cities and counties and states can't have a foreign policy. That's for the federal government. But in 2005, Mayor Greg Nichols in Seattle created the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement, which ultimately had 1,066 United States mayors agreeing to the Kyoto Treaty. Okay, well, these groups, the names will change. Once you get hip to them, the names change. Obviously, ICLEI changed their name because we became very active. We fought them in every city in the United States where they were, or the cities were members. And what they do, they pulled their membership list off the internet. So you couldn't tell if your town was a member anymore. Okay, now it's back up there. And it shows 11 cities in Washington, down from the 32 that were members, but it's not clear. Once you've been a member, once you accept their climate action plans, their milestones, their constant analysis of the way that you live, your energy and water usage, you are in their database. That is their plan. So, okay, so Mayor's Climate Protection Campaign, it morphed. Now it's Bloomberg-led. Now it's called the Global Covenant of Mayors. Think of that word covenant, right? They always give it this, sort of biblical, we are parting the waters, right? Okay, so now it's the Global Covenant of Mayors, 7,400 mayors worldwide, and here in the United States, Governor Inslee is on the executive board of We Are Still In. In what? Yeah. In the Paris Climate Accord. All right? We are still in. Oh, yeah? Gee, wasn't there a little something about Trump refusing to? No, because we are still in. And we are still in because we're in Washington. okay? The Guardian newspaper went to that global, I can't even say it, the global covenant of mayors. They interviewed a guy who's the mayor of Atlanta called Kasim Reed. He told reporters that he had traveled to Europe to send a signal that United States states and cities would execute the policies that Obama committed to, whether the White House occupants, the current White House occupants, agreed or not. This is the rise of the city-state, okay? Because you do not have global governance, you do not have one world government. You don't go from this to that. You have to have an interim step, and it is regionalization. You know, so you empower these mega cities, these huge metropolitan areas. So I'm going to tell you there is one other major example of a violation of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, no foreign policy. 18 of Washington's 39 counties are sanctuary counties, including Kitsap. This rogue activity is defying the Constitution, it's regionalization. So regionalization, Zbigniew Brzezinski said, we cannot leap into world government in one quick step. The precondition for eventual globalization, genuine globalization, is progressive regionalization. Because therefore we move towards larger, more stable, more cooperative units. It's incremental. It erases jurisdictional boundaries. It breaks county, state, and national boundaries. And it erects a parallel government of unelected boards and commissions. You want to see what it looks like? Take a look at the EU. Redesigning government. Redesigning. The United Nations has a policy of land use. Your property rights advocates, you understand that you are your most important property, that we are guaranteed our rights to ownership of our property. But the United Nations has a land use concept, a theory, a policy. They say land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Private land ownership is a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth. And therefore it contributes to social injustice. There it is. There it is. Public control of land use is therefore indispensable. The Nazis had a very similar land use plan. Very similar. So it gets worse than that. You know, am I like a person who just hates the UN? Am I like one of those kind of people? Not to say there's anything wrong with them. No. I mean, I had, you know, I really was a liberal. You know, I have to say was, past tense. Like, you know, I don't know how you can, I mean, I'm not a socialist. You know, it's just totally gone. I would say the Democratic Party left me a long time ago. You know? And the United Nations is a framework. It allows for a structure for this plan. So this is real, okay? This is America. I know you can't see it. Don't worry about it. It's America2050.org. It's a plan of the Regional Plan Association, paid for by the Rockefellers and the Fords. Because you know what? Somebody's got to pay for this stuff. And there's an awful lot of money out there. And there are an awful lot of big money donors to a lot of these plans. And this is one. This is what they're showing you is going to be your future. No nation in 50 years, or by 2050, no nation, you're going to have mega regions. You happen to be in Cascadia up here, part of Oregon, part of Washington, and part of British Columbia. There you go. In fact, there are 11 regions. Now, it's not like they chopped the U.S. into 11 chunks, because about 11 states are not in a mega region. These areas are in the wildlands. These mega regions, 5 of the 11 mega regions, include part of Canada and Mexico. They erased jurisdictional boundaries. No more states, no more nations. This is the design. It's post-Westphalia Treaty. It's basically the destruction of the nation state. So, okay, the whole point now, you remember your 4th E. Look at us. We're old. It's not a very nice thing to say, and thank God there's a few of us here who aren't. But we don't, this is it, man. If we don't do it, this is it. Okay? Because the plan is designed to make us, to design us, to redesign the way that we think and feel, to accept totalitarianism. It's the transformation from a voting U.S. citizen to a non-voting global citizen. Common Core, outcomes-based education, direct instruction, whatever you call it, Goals 2000, whatever you call it, is designed to produce a universal, workforce-ready population that is prepared to identify as global citizens. Globalization needs total standardization of all systems. You can't control these systems by computer unless they all match up. Standardization of law enforcement, education, standardized propaganda in schools, that's lifelong learning, breaking down traditional methods of learning in order to re-socialize the populace. That's the goal, to make you obedient, dependent people who are not thinking as individuals, but instead have lost the ability to think as an individual. You're instead thinking as part of a cohort. Okay? You're the new man. The new man. You're the world citizen. Okay, I'm going to give you just a few examples, and then I'm going to be done here. Take a look at this. This is from 2012. They pulled it off the internet when we started talking about it. This is the Washington Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Yeah. February 2018, the Washington and Oregon Higher Education Sustainability Conference. Because they do get together a lot more than you do, okay? And there's a lot more of them. Doesn't matter, does it? Okay, but remember post-truth. You got to break through that. So, this is a conference they have every year, Washington and Oregon, higher education, the professors, the administrators, they get together. Well, they had one seminar that's now a regular course at University of Washington. It's called, check this out, Navigating Environmental Grief, Resilience and Hope in an Age of Climate Consequences. Here's what they say, among many environmentalists, gloom is building. Buzzwords like eco-grief, climate trauma, and pre-traumatic stress. This is the anger or panic. Check this out. You gotta love it, don't you? The anger or panic that results when your daily work is to project an increasingly apocalyptic future. These people are making themselves crazy. The worst thing about it is they're making your kids crazy and your grandkids crazy too. Imagine the stress in a small child. I'm killing the planet and I can't even tie my shoes yet. Okay. There are so many groups. There are thousands of groups. The American Lung Association has an advocacy wing for sustainable development. Sierra Club, Nature Conservancy, all of them. Okay, the Western Washington University, University of Washington, Eastern Washington University, they have a sustainability graduation pledge. I, blah, 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 will bring social justice into any organization in which I work or affiliate. How about this one? Think about this one, please. The National Religious Partnership for the Environment. More than 114 million Christian and Jewish adherents in more than 156,000 congregations and parishes across the United States. Are you a member? Do you know? So, hey, this is heavy, right? But don't panic. And I know you're not panicking. Because you're in here with a bunch of people who think and feel the same way that you do, and that's important. It really is. Because when you're an outlier, like I am, you really don't have too many people to talk to. That's why I came here. So you don't want to panic, right? You want to act, okay? This is a worldwide, nonpartisan, grassroots movement to fight global totalitarianism. It's that simple. And your big takeaway is that there is no Switzerland in this fight. You're not going to hide out on your ranch. Sorry. Because you're out there in the wildlands. It's most important to work together. You got to think clearly, educate yourself and others, because post-truth destroys reality. So I've got a book here. It's an easy, short book, big print. It's got 20 pages on what you can do. It's a great book. You want to learn to anti-Delphi those meetings. We have destroyed those meetings all across the United States. Planners are like, oh my God, where did these people come from? What's happening? You want to kick ICLEI out, okay? You can do it. I have a DVD here of a speech I gave that's longer than this one, believe it or not, at Western Washington University. I think you might like to check that out. I think that awareness on these issues helped to change and turn the tide to get President Trump elected. You want to work on your legislators. You want to work locally. Fight this locally, because that is where it's designed to be sourced. It's a top-down plan, but you can fight it. You want to fund lawsuits like ours? Fund lawsuits like Capers? You want to refuse to cooperate with the plan? I don't care what you're doing. Whatever else you're doing in your day. Are you going to a volunteers meeting? What are you volunteering for, and where's your money going? Do you know if that group is supporting United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development? If your pastor is giving you a sermon about sustainable development, you better go have a chat with your pastor. You want to speak up. You want to withdraw your support from organizations. If you're in meetings, if you're a government worker, if you're in an office, if you're a teacher, you want to speak out. You want to expose collaborators. This is a fight, but we can win it. You have to have faith, but act. Don't wait, because awareness is the first step in the resistance. Action is the second step. Thank you.